just kind of wanted to set the stage, no pun intended, of what tonight's all about. You know, we started back in 2013 with $1,500 on the for-profit side, and we set out for a vision just to represent Arizona in a positive and fashionable way. Being born and raised from Arizona, that was pretty unique at that time. But as it developed, we wanted to do so much more. We always want to be known, for selling. We always want to be known for selling for more than just selling T-shirts and hats. So that is why we started a foundation 2 years ago in the midst of a pandemic. So that just shows you our genuine passion of just wanting to do so much more in the community. So we're really pumped for tonight in the next 3 weeks to be able to try to support the community of aspiring entrepreneurs. And that's ultimately what we're raising money for, is to give back out to you all. So hopefully you get a lot of good practical tips and motivation and resources and connect with like-minded people tonight. But at the end of this whole series, you'll be able to apply for $25,000 in grants. So just kind of wanted to set the stage again of why we're here tonight and why the genuine passion of we want to do so much more than just sell T-shirts and hats, and that's giving back, because we didn't know what the heck we were doing when we first started. So I'll kick it back to Lisa, but that is a little bit about what we're doing on the foundation side.
Thank you, Mike. Does any of us know what the heck we're doing anyways when we get started? I mean, we can all agree with that. But who better to speak on vision, a true visionary like our co-founders here at State 48. So can't wait to hear on that later tonight. But when we were also doing this and bringing the community together and our resources, obviously Arizona and Phoenix specifically have a great number of organizations offering support and services to local business owners. So that's just a great perk that we have here each week. We will highlight different organizations that will be here tonight, and specifically we have Venture Cafe, Center for Entrepreneurial Innovation, and Local First Arizona. So each week you can go back there to the side and ask any questions, get any additional information that you might need going forward. So thank you all for being here tonight as well. And with that said, we want to remind you that we will, like Mike said, be awarding $25,000 in grant monies. Isn't that amazing that they're doing that for all of you here tonight? But there's some guidelines, some rules that you must follow. At least you must attend 2 of the 4 speaker series sessions in person, or we also have it virtually as well. And those grants are going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 as well. You must complete 1 post-session survey, so that's going to be emailed to you after each session. And then if you complete those 2 things, you'll be sent an application after the series ends. So good luck to everyone. Make sure you do your homework. It's pretty simple, right? Come to awesome events and fill out those guidelines, and you can be up for grabs of $25,000 for your business. Now, before I introduce our first speaker, I wanted to remind everyone that there will be an opportunity at the end to do a little Q&A with our speakers, so make sure you're jotting down those questions and you have those ready to go for our Q&A session. And then after that, we're going to be doing a short visionary exercise, which I am so excited to do with the owner here of Walter Studios, Kirk Strawn, so cannot wait for that. So make sure you stick around. And of course, we're going to have a little mix and mingle, because what is entrepreneurship without networking? Grab a drink and be able to talk amongst all of you guys and your great minds again and visionaries that you all bring to the table here today at the Honey Bar. So I'm sure I see some of you have drinks already in hand. Smart. But today, we're going to keep going on with the program. Each week, we'll have, obviously, great speakers come on stage and share a little bit about their journey. And we're going to start this session off all about vision. Because without starting any good business, any foundation of that needs to come with clear vision, obviously, and of course, purpose. One of the reasons we chose to host this series right here at Walter Studios is because of the visionary behind it. Just take a look at everything. He's going to come with some great expertise here tonight on community-focused organization and entrepreneurial roots. Our first speaker is the founder and creative mind behind Walter Studios and all Walter brands. So without further ado, let's welcome and bring up to the stage Kirk Strawn.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. First, welcome. For a lot of you, probably the first time in a Walter space. And Walter is a community. And we're about 15 years old, and we have a 100-year plan. So what's that, 85 years, I guess, that we still have in our vision. But in reality, really, we're looking at 100 years from today. So we're always trying to keep our view somewhere in the future so that we're making great decisions for what we do with our time, our resources, and our collaborations, which are really the source of what Walter is. And I wanted to just thank State 48 and State 48 Foundation. Thank you so much for bringing this series here, and for every one of you for showing up. Since we're talking about vision, it's sort of funny, but I've been envisioning for a very long time that one of the purposes of Walter Studios was that entrepreneurs would come here and that they would meet each other. There would be people with amazing ideas, people with this know-how that nobody else has. They would meet each other, and somehow out of that would grow things that would help our community and our world. And so that you're here, and this is the very first group that's ever come to Walter Studios for any event, is really a vision come true. And so I would like to thank you for making a vision come true. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Walter. And Walter is a community, and I think of it almost as a community art-based project. And we have some rules. And so you've all done the very first rule already, which is to show up. And in addition to everybody who's in this room, I know that there's people that aren't even in this room that are watching through this camera, I'm amazed at technology, are somewhere else, and they're actually here with us as well. And so the very first rule of Walter is show up, and thank you all for being here. The second is be nice. And everybody here that I've met so far is really nice, so I think that we're actually pretty good on that second rule. The third one, I don't know yet, which is clean up your shit. So that has to do with any place that you're in a Walter facility, any Walter space, any Walter event, just please pick up your stuff. We started as a Burning Man camp, and it turns out there's this thing about not leaving any mess at Burning Man, down to the level of on your hands and knees picking up pieces of glitter and hair that someone left in your space on the dust. So anyway, that's the very, very, very origin of Walter. Tonight, I really just want to tell some stories, and I'd like to share a few concrete tools that might be helpful to help you in envisioning. And I believe every one of you is a visionary. Sort of like how you probably heard the story, like, well, everybody's really an artist, but maybe in second or third grade somebody said that your tree didn't look right, or something was wrong, and then all of a sudden people think that they're not artists. But vision is imagination, and every single one of you is chock full of imagination. Ideas come from absolutely everywhere in any organization, in any realm, and you are the source of all of that, creative energy. So I will tell you a few things. I'm going to just foreshadow and show you that this is really important to me in terms of visioning. And I'm going to show you a page out of this that was not created for tonight, but was just one page in a series of drawings that I've done over many, many years. It predated my becoming an entrepreneur, and it's a way of artistically envisioning the future. So we're gonna get to that at some point, but I'll put this back. Could we actually have the first slide? So I don't have a name for this symbol, but trust me, this is probably one of the most important symbols that has guided the vision of what is Walter. And probably 20 years or so ago, I was playing a game with one of my daughters, and the game is really fun. You take a pen and a piece of paper, and you draw a little quick doodle, and then you hand it to the other person, and they draw a little doodle. And sometimes they might change your first doodle, or they might make a connection to or fill it out, and it becomes something else. And you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until finally the final creation is this piece of art that isn't the creative expression of either one of you. It's the creative expression of you, plural. And every Walter project is a collaborative art project. There is no such thing as one person who came up with anything that is in the entire Walter world. I would say as well, I've yet found anything complex in this world that is not a collaborative project. One person cannot create an iPhone or a plastic chair or a building like this, or really most things in this world are really done collaboratively. I don't actually try to, I don't have a name for it. It's tattooed on my daughter's arm. That's how important it is to them. Behind that wall, I know that it's drawn in there, and the plasterboard is over the top of it. So maybe someday someone will cut it out and they'll find that. It's in my book all the time. I draw it all the time. And I still don't exactly know what it is. But in that game one time, this showed up. And I don't know who drew what, but this thing showed up. And it simply became a symbol that was very helpful for me in building a foundation. So you might have seen the mural on your way in. It says, "Start with love." So in thinking about what I might talk to you all about, I thought, well, I should probably spend a little bit of time thinking about this thing that I have this amazing relationship with, that I draw and is my muse, perhaps. And so "Start with love" is a very Walter idea. And it's really helpful to think about where I am, what am I doing, and how might I make my next step. So it's really easy if you kind of do it for a long time. Well, if I start with love, what would I do? And then I always forget, and then I have to remember it again and again and again. But I think that is probably what that heart is. I think it's probably, if you're thinking about the future, well, maybe I could first start with love. Then that thing on the top, I'm not sure that in the original drawing that it was a crown. It kind of looks like a crown. But I think from a visioning perspective, it has something to do with taking out and projecting outward an idea around love. Maybe it's your brain expanding. Maybe it's that there's not just one person that you're thinking about. It's multiple people. I don't know for sure. All I know is I love to draw it. I draw it all the time. And it's part of how I envision the future. And it might be a good time to just create, for this session, my definition that I can share with you of what I think visioning is. And I think visioning is where could we, see, so to be fully transparent, I've never been trained in any form of visioning. I've never talked about visioning before. So I'm certainly the perfect person to talk to you about vision, because I've never, ever talked about it or whatever. But I think that visioning is, where could we go from here? So this is where I start. Like, where could we go from here? And where could we go? I believe that most things that are related to entrepreneurship are not about individual improvements. Like if I want to say, where could I go from here? That's about me. But I don't believe that that's actually what we're really here to talk about. And I don't believe it's at the source and the core of entrepreneurship. I believe it's about shared vision. Where can we go? Because ideas are easy. Ideas come around all the time. But the things that make it really an amazing vision are that you somehow get other people to come with. And then what can you do? It turns out you can do unbelievable things. The whole of human existence is about collaboration and us finding solutions to problems and being able to move ourselves forward. When we stop being we, I see destruction and division. But I believe that the things that are of value and the things that can change our community and can change our world are about us working together, regardless of what divisions may exist. So we have a definition of visioning, which is where could we go from here? We have the next slide. So stories. I think I want to start with where we are. Like, where are we right now? We're in Walter Studios. Walter Studios is one of 4 venues in the Valley that Walter has created. Walter Studios is very similar to all of the Walter projects that we've been involved in. I don't even think I need notes. I think that the Walter Studios is very similar to every Walter build that I've been involved in. We start with something old with historic value, and then we apply art and technology to it, expressing our community's artistic vision, and then we share it with others. Every single thing that we've done, I think, is following this basic model. And so just like this is me 25 years ago or so, and my beautiful wife Mary and our daughters, this building has an amazing history. It, in the 1940s, was the very first place that Native Americans were ever recorded for commercial release. There had been plenty of recordings of Native chanting, singing, and music that had been recorded for like the Smithsonian and things like that. But this was the very first place where, for pressing a record and releasing it for commercial purposes, that it ever happened, probably in the country. So when you walked in, you might have noticed there was a Navajo gentleman looking over his shoulder back at you, and that is Ed Lee Nate. And right in that corner, that was where he recorded the very first songs where they started pressing records in this building. That was part of Canyon Records, which is still in existence in Tempe. It's literally one of the oldest recording labels in the country. It's an amazing place. Where we are right now is Canyon Films, when they started in the 1950s to start actually recording using film. This building has never been open to the public in the last 80 years until we finally opened it a couple months ago. And it's a landmark. Like, the history of this building is phenomenal. What do? Art, technology, share. Like, that's a vision. Like, that's a way of making this place alive again. We have another place over at 21st Avenue in Roosevelt, the old Zellerbach Paper Company, back in the 1940s when paper was the thing, pre-computers, like everything was on paper. This beautiful old building, and now that's an event space that the Frida Kahlo exhibit is there right now. If you get a chance, the Frida Kahlo exhibit, and do the VR, like, that's for sure. Anyway, they're using that space for the summer, but we also throw events there when they're not using it. Walter Station, Sky Harbor's very first airport fire station. Now it's a brewery. If you happen to have one of the Walter beers, my favorite's Just Be Nice. They're amazing. It's an amazing, beautiful building. And then the sort of the heart and soul is the Walter Dome. It's the home of the Hive. So Diane and Nan and Brian and David, I see David. Some of the folks from the Walter Hive are there. That's our 501c3 not-for-profit. It is trying to unleash the potential of self-expression through arts and technology, which might be welding, painting, sculpting, 3D printing, all manner of things. We have an amazing shop. All the pictures that you see in the lounge, those are the creations that were all built at the Walter Dome. And it also has an art gallery. It's a super cool place. But the Hive is doing incredible work in our community, working with kids and adults. My wife is a retired pediatrician, and so a lot of his focus on kids, kids with cancer, the Arizona Burn Foundation, kids that are burn survivors, kids with cancer and adults with cancer or Alzheimer's disease, healthcare workers, doing programs to help them to express themselves. Now, I believe that you cannot vision without expressing what your vision is. Self-expression is at the core of being able to envision, because if you can't share it, then it's not a shared vision, and it's going to be in your head, and it's not going to go anywhere else. So shared vision is what every vision wants to be. So you have this amazing idea that comes up, and you see it clearly. You have to be able to express that in some way. Words, pictures, something. Like, you have to be able to express your vision for it to have any potential to grow into what is the future. So this is us. Mary taught me mostly, I'm a retired family physician, but Mary taught me about present moment awareness, about being in the here and now. My vision definition is, where could we go from here? Here is always in the now, for sure. I've been checking for a very long time. I'm trying to figure out if I ever am anywhere other than now, and I have yet to figure out any moment in my life where I wasn't right here, right now. It's the only time you get to vision. It's the only time you get to act on your vision. It's the only time you get to do anything. So, being in the here and now, Mary shook up my here and now. She said, when we had our first daughter, she's like, I think we should move into our garage, 450 square feet. We should rent out our house. We should have no mortgage. I said we should get a Volkswagen bus, because I think that's freedom. And we diverted from the path, the conventional path of all of our physician friends, which was, you work in the clinic or you work in the hospital and you're on call and you work massive numbers of hours and you get a big house and you mortgage that big house, and then now this is life. So we figured out how to basically break some of those bonds that would have kept us from being able to see the potential. Now, when I'm in this now and this here and now, when I'm a young man, younger man, and I got a Volkswagen bus, and I live in a tiny little house, and I'm not worried really about money, the visions I started having from there, not the visions I would have had I not been shaken up and in a transformed system. Anytime you can transform your here and now, you have the potential to open up other opportunities and other options, and you can see things in the future that could happen differently than when you're not in that system. So I credit Walter with Mary saying, I think we should move in our garage. I think we can go to the next slide. So you might wonder, who's Walter? This is Walter. So there is no person Walter in Walter. This is a 1963 Walter, like the company, airport fire truck. It's funny that we have an airport fire station as well. That was not planned, but we now have 3 of these. If you go look, there's a giant beetle in the pictures out there, and there's this other thing that shoots enormous flames and has horns on it named Heathen. They're all Walter Airport fire trucks. And I think what I want to say about Walter is he taught me about second chances, because Walter was this amazing vehicle. Though he was made by a company that was in its waning years of when it was going to be in existence. It lasted for 100 years. It's why I don't like lock into, it's a 100-year project. Screw that. Like, I'm afraid that it'll stop at 100 years, like the Walter Truck Company did, and like the Walter Brewing Company did. I think that's why I'm thinking 100 years from today, and then 100 years from tomorrow, and 100 years. But he was this amazing vehicle, super powerful. One person and one vehicle could put out an airplane fire, the fuselage burning. The only hope of anyone who's in that plane, if they couldn't get out, is this guy could discharge a dollop of foam in 1 minute that was 10 times his volume. And that's how you put out an airplane that's on fire with jet fuel. Walter had one purpose, and one purpose only, was to save people. He was not built to save airplanes. Once an airplane is crashed, it's screwed. Like there's no coming back. He was there with his partner to save whoever was inside of that. He went from Luke Air Force Base to another airport in North Phoenix. He ended up, because he was four-wheel drive and could carry water, he ended up doing wildfire work in northern Arizona. And then one day, some teeth broke off of his flywheel, and he wouldn't start. And a fire truck that doesn't start is worth scrap value. His company was out of business. There was no way to get the right parts. So he ended up being taken to the Gold King mine in Jerome, Arizona. I had a Volkswagen bus, and they throw this amazing party where they have Volkswagens that come and they have a camp out. And I got to go, and I met him there the exact same day that I learned about what Burning Man was. And they said, people turn these vehicles into these amazing creations. And in an instant, I saw him as what he is today, as a giant Volkswagen bus. And that's the thing about vision. Sometimes you get the whole vision right in one view. I don't think it happens all that often, especially the ones that end up happening. But I saw him. And the problem is it took 10 years to get him down to the valley. So even though you get this vision, like, wow, sometimes you have to wait. And it doesn't happen on your time frame. Your ideas of the future sometimes are way out there. So I've become less, I guess, assured that my idea that I think is an amazing idea is going to happen today or tomorrow or the next day. It might be 5 years, 10 years, it might be 100 years. I don't know. So, but Walter spawned a community that gave him a second chance. Walter and his family of vehicles, who this community just kept building and building and building over the next 10 years till we have like a dozen art cars. He spawned all of what is Walter. So Mary and Walter is why there is a Walter. I'll just give you an example of one of the vehicles. So that same idea, take something with history, something that's old, apply art and apply technology to it, is Calliope. Calliope is a 1969 Fruhoff over-the-road semi-trailer that was ready for scrap. She came through a visioning process at the Walter Dome where for multiple nights over probably a month, her form was envisioned. She didn't look anything like this week one. Any of you here? Danny was there. She ultimately became this. Those horns are from the 1940s, pulled out of those speakers right there, pulled out of a junkyard. The mids and the subs, which are behind the scroll work, are from the 1970s, the very early discos when they started putting big sound systems in buildings and things like that. And she's been everywhere. Walter and his friends have worked for Google and SpaceX and Twitter and Zappos. They've worked for companies like Insomniac and Live Nation. They've played festivals like Bonnaroo and EDC and Life is Beautiful. And all that's second chance. All of that, I believe, is at the core, this idea that maybe, even though everything's not great today, maybe that's not the end. And I feel like everyone has had those times where it's like, all right, this is it, kind of done. But the idea of second chance, when you envision that there's the potential for a second chance, and I'm not talking about just in your own life, because that's super clear that there's always a chance, but when you think about other people that aren't convinced that they have a second chance, an idea that was tried in the past. Like if you open your mind to say, I believe in second chances, the options of your visions and the way that you might get to how I have to keep saying again, where could we go from here? You all of a sudden have a lot of new options. Can we go to the next one? So I'm a family practice physician. How many of you are less than 45? Oh shit, like almost everybody. All right. So I did nothing other than work in a normal job, or well, some sort of normal job, up until I was 45. So I wasn't an entrepreneur before that. So if any of you think like, wow, it's getting kind of late, like it's not, because at 45, Mary and I wanted to homeschool our daughters. We'd move from our garage into a school bus, and we'd have these amazing travels, and we wanted to homeschool them during middle school. And I said, well, I think that it would be really important for us to go and drive around the country. And so I said, the only way I can do that is to start my own company. So my brother and I and a couple friends, we started this company called Pop Health. That is Pop Health. That's light rail in Tempe. Pop Health is the top floor of that. We had offices in New York, offices in Nashville, big operation in Puerto Rico. We had 500 employees around the country. We were delivering. It started with analytics, where we were collecting data and assembling information about very sick patients. Turns out that most of the hospitalizations are people who were just in the hospital not very long ago, like within the last 6 months to a year, like most. And we figured out how to find those people, how to go into their homes, give them our cell phone, put people in their houses, and they knew who to call when they had a problem, as opposed to what happens to those kind of people now. Go to the ER, nobody knows them, put them in the hospital. They get sicker in the hospital a lot of times. I had to, maybe in terms of visioning, I had to work 20 years in healthcare before I could have the vision to start that company. So again, in terms of where these visions come from and how do you have those visions, sometimes you got to put in the time to learn the system and learn where the opportunities to improve it are. So the idea, I think we live in a very, everything should happen super, super fast. In my experience, it takes time to do things of value. We sold it to Blue Cross Blue Shield in 2017. And I started Walter the same time I started Pop Health. And so they're both kind of parallel paths. It's still in existence, and it's growing, and they're still taking care of people in their homes. Go to the next slide. Oh, all right. We finally got back to this. So I did not draw this for you tonight. I drew this. I usually draw at night. It's usually late. And you can see on the left, sure enough, I started with that symbol, which I don't have a name for. And one thing that happened when I was getting ready to sell Pop Health to these various potential buyers is I was sitting, it was right off of Mill. There's a little restaurant right in the back of that building there. And we were talking with managers. We were having some drinks and talking about the challenges and how do we translate this and how does it scale and all these sort of big questions. And the whole time there was this guy putting wine bottles into a big rack up behind it. And he was there for probably half an hour, and all the people I was with and I left, and I was going to pay the bill. And he steps down off of his ladder, and he comes and he just got right on the bar right next to me. He goes, "It's all about connection." And he turned around and he went back up the ladder, and I've never forgotten that moment. And I think he's right. It is about connection. I've been definitely adding more about connections and ties and anywhere I can, trying to, I guess it's, think of the system. I think it's like everything's connected, or we're all connected, or something. I don't know how that all works out. But, so I drew my symbol, and I started drawing some things around it. And then I started drawing some connections. And then I started talking about Walter. And I see some of my Walter team is here, and I'm sort of embarrassed because I try not to ever have the really big ideas and share them, because they know me, and I have ideas that are scary sometimes. So, sorry, Ryan. Anyway, so I want to just tell you what this is. So, we're a 100-year plan. Like, we got to focus on some things that we all have, I can't worry about divides. I got to worry about all of us. Like what are things that might help sustain this idea of Walter, regardless of who you are? So in the middle, it says food and water. Only it actually says food and Walter because it's a joke. So food and Walter. So we just started our first restaurant. If you have a chance, we just started, and we're very new in terms of creating a restaurant. After this, if you want to try some food, I would love it. Food and water. Food and water are sort of like everything. This is Walter, our beer, our brewery. But in the upper left, I said, maybe it's not a brewery. Maybe it's a beverage company. Maybe it's really about drinks. Drinks, like food and drink, is kind of everything. Like everybody needs it. And there's some other little things there. There's the little droplet, which is the droplet right there. I like to have things that remind me of where we're trying to go. And then, of course, the symbol goes down there. At the bottom is Walter Productions. Walter Productions is about creating experience like what we're in right now. Right now, we are all together in collaboration with State 48 Foundation. We're creating an experience. That is what Walter Productions is. It creates experiences. You might think we're venues, so I went ahead and put venues up there because that's kind of a thing. But we also are looking at like the properties. So I'm trying to think about financial sustainability. There's a little thing down there that has some scribbly notes that are about the regulatory and financing way that if you assemble properties and we have several now, that might make it more sustainable and advantages and things like that. But of course, the symbol. And then Walter Farms. So I think we're going into farming at some point, but I don't know when. I don't know exactly when. But I'm really interested where stuff comes from. And we have land here, and you can grow stuff in the city. And so anyway, Walter Farms. And we have a restaurant. I mean, we should get as much of the food as we can from somewhere here. Way. So Mary went to MIT, and I get access to their postgraduate training programs through that. And I took this thing on AI that basically convinced me that Walter, the bus, is a part of intelligence. Humans using tools is at the core of AI. I believe that we're at the very, very beginning of, in the past, computers. I remember, when I started working in healthcare, we used big ledger sheets. And I saw my first laptop, and everything was red. But we're at that same point when it comes to using these new tools that are available. And I believe that Walter, as a platform, a sustainable platform, is then a point that other things grow. And I'm really interested in this idea of tools that help solve problems and make this world a better place. So Way is this thing that doesn't exist. This is a really secret idea. None of you can take this idea out of here. So Way, that's Way. And then the top is the Walter Management Group. There's an umbrella over all of this. You have to have an umbrella that talks about legal, insurance, finance, banking, regulatory, everything. So there is a company that's over this and always trying to make things better. And the very, very top piece is because I'm not going to be around for 100 years, how might I share? We don't have outside financing, never did with Pop Health either, just took out mortgages and stuff like that. But how might we start to transition to bring more people into that? And I certainly never plan to share that with anyone, so this is no commercial or anything like that. But it's just a little equation up there that I've been playing around with, thinking about, I'm going to get even older. Like, I'm pretty old, and I'm going to get older, so I don't know if my daughters want to run this thing. So anyway, so that's what that is. This is an example of how I vision. I've done this hundreds of times. A lot of them never came true. The things that my ideas just didn't come true. Some of them were dead on, but the flow of it is absolutely intact. The flow of it, which I attribute to what's on the left. Start with love. Use our imagination. It's all about how do we, or where, I haven't, since I've never defined it, it doesn't roll off my tongue. Where could we go from here? So I think that this method could be useful to other people. You have to express your vision, or else it can't get out. It can't go anywhere. So you might have all sorts of other ways of expressing vision, but I think a pen and a piece of paper is a pretty darn good tool, usually accessible no matter where you are. I will tell you I have one more way that I do it. It's notes on the iPhone. And I don't just put any little teeny idea in there. I call it Walter Ideals. These are the big ideas, the disruptive ideas, the ones I don't have time to draw a picture, the ones I just need to get down and say, all right, impossibilities are great, put under there. And so from a concrete perspective, I think that drawing and expressing your vision of where we could go from here is the concrete tool that I hope that I could leave with you. I'm going to go back to my notes because I wrote down a few things, and I'm going to see if I said the things that I wanted to do. I said, show up, be nice, and clean up your shit. Told some stories. Said, I didn't really say this so much, but the only here is now. There's space-time. There's no difference between space and time. It is just space-time, so the only here is now. You can envision things, but it might take a long time for it to happen. Second chances, if you believe that, it will open up possibilities in what you can envision. Guaranteed. It's all about connections. And the other one is draw. So, all right, thank you very much. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. And truly, he is a true visionary. Who is ready to sell everything and go live in your garage here in Arizona? Yeah? No? Not too much? Thank you so much again for allowing us to use your space. So much fun here. So now we're going to shift things. As Mike mentioned earlier in today's program, unfortunately, Paige Diamacos could not make it here tonight, but like true entrepreneurs, we know how to shift and pivot. So who better to talk about vision and putting that into a reality than our co-founders, Mike Spangenberg and Nicholas Polando.
Hello again. Super bummed that Paige couldn't be here. I personally invited her. One of the most impressive humans you'll ever meet, especially when she talks about sports. Probably knows more sports than anyone you'll know. I love what you said about connection. Collaboration is obviously a huge part of what we do. But I met her through Bruce Arians and the Arians Family Foundation, which is a huge partner of ours. It really gave us a lot of credibility, got us going. And she's just an amazing human, and for a female in sports to work her way up to become a CEO at the Draft Network is super impressive. So I'm bummed she couldn't be here, but just like any entrepreneur, you have to pivot. And I was pulling up in the parking lot. She texted me. She's like, Spank, you're going to kill me, but like I have a major emergency with an investor, and I can't make it. I'm like, for a second, I'm like, crap. I just wanted to drink some bourbon and just chill and hang out and connect with people. But I was like, cool, we'll pivot. And I think it's actually very fitting that we'll be able to share our story. I'm sorry if you've heard it before, but I think it's very important to, again, explain why we're here and why the passion is to start a foundation and to help others, because we still sometimes don't know what the heck we're doing. But I'm pumped to be able to talk about vision, because it also could be it could be a blessing and a curse for me. On my mind's always like, what are the next 10 things we can do, right? We just had a huge milestone of landing a license plate deal, and I'm just like, crap, that's not even good enough. Like, what are the next 10 things we have to do? And you kind of have to have that vision in order to know like what you want to do, right? So I'll start it off by, people always ask the common question of like, Mike, or State 48, whoever, did you really think State 48 was going to be what it is today? And I'm like, no BS, like absolutely. Because a lot of that is we were solving a problem back in 2013. How many of you are from Arizona, born and raised? Oh, hell yeah, that's cool. So I felt like that weird dude in high school, raising my hand when people were asking, or I would get like genuinely upset when people would explore other opportunities outside of Arizona. Or any of you diehard Cardinal fans, if you're at Sun Devil Stadium watching Cardinal games, and most of the fans are opposing fans, that like genuinely used to piss me off. And I'm like, we were so much better than that. The 3 for $10 corny Walgreens shirts just weren't doing it for me. I always loved clothes. Back to school shopping was probably my favorite thing about school. So like at that point, we were solving a problem. So the vision was always there, and I would say it shifted. And I think it's very important to pivot and listen to your customers or your audience and adjust when necessary. Because, for example, when we first started, it was myself, Stefan, and Nick. Nick's here today. Stefan's no longer with the business, but a huge part of how we got started. We were living together. I didn't even know Arizona was the 48th state, even though I have every Arizona tattoo there is. He thought of the name one day, but the original vision was just like, hey, let's just represent Arizona in a cool way. Like, let's just make, knockoff Cardinal shirts or Sun shirts. And obviously we realized that's not the way to do it. But like the ultimate goal was just say, hey, let's rep our hometown in a positive way. And like it used to, again, the genuine passion was there. We had no knowledge in this industry. Of course, I had 15 years in the hotel industry, so I know how to treat people right, and I knew business. But like, Nick was self-taught graphic designer, and first logo we ever created was our main logo you see all the time, so he did well there. But the vision was always there. So super pumped to be able to kind of share a little bit more about us and what that vision is. So I think it is kind of faith that Paige couldn't make it today, unfortunately, so we can share our story and kind of see why it all flows together. But even though we have complete opposite businesses and probably opposite people, there's a lot of synergies and a lot of common things that you said, and I think that's what's very important with entrepreneurship, is that we all have different industries or backgrounds and all that, but it's all the same shit. Like, you work hard, you treat people right, you solve a problem, you got to work for it. Like, there's no BS. Like nowadays, the entrepreneur, the world is kind of portrayed as a sexy thing to do, and you're going to all make billions of dollars. Breaking news, that is not the reality. Sometimes it is, and kudos to those people that can do it. I would love to know those tricks, but we're just grassroots. Started with $1,500. Again, worked out of our spare bedroom. I could share stories all day, but I made a shirt backwards one time, and Nick would probably laugh at me, but we just figured things out as we went. But I think, again, the common thing is you got to work hard. You got to believe in what you're doing. You got to be consistent. I think everyone thinks nowadays that, it's going to happen tomorrow. That's not the case. I mean, we're 9.5 years into it, and we still have, I say it all the time, we have so much to learn and opportunities to grow. Like, I honestly feel like we're just getting started. We were so grassroots and organic the first several years. Like, it's cool now to have the resources to invest into our incredible team of 16 and having Lisa join the team and upping our talent and bringing on these incredible people that believe in what we're doing, because you can't do it all on your own. And at the beginning, you have to do a lot of that, but that's not sustainable, that's not scalable. So that's super important to just be consistent, have that same vision. And then, of course, if you have to adapt, you have to adapt. But like I was mentioning earlier, when we first started, hey, let's just make fun T-shirts that represent Arizona. Now, for a while, it's been, how do we express to the community, how do our actions speak louder than words of saying, hey, we want to be so much more than selling T-shirts and hats. And that's starting a foundation. That's creating a legitimate organization that's a one-stop shop for apparel and design. We want to be able to add value. we talk about it all the time. We want to solve problems. We want to be a real, genuine company, and we're not just out for the dollars. So, of course, the dollars and your purchases and all that stuff help sustain the business, but it has so much more, in my opinion. And kudos to any other organization that could do more or BS their way through it. But we are a genuine, homegrown brand from Chandler, and we still have our offices in Chandler. So I think consistency is very important. Bringing on the talented people to help you. I know I've been guilty in the past of trying to do so much, and I still put a lot on my plate, but you have to delegate. You have to find the incredible, team members to be able to trust and put your, faith in to help grow the business. And there's no coincidence. The more you put into yourself, whether that's time, money, to your team, you grow. 9 years into it, I'm proud to say we've grown year over year, and we're going to grow again this year. So that doesn't mean it gets any easier, but you have to surround yourself with the right people. You have to bring on the right team. You have to know, when to pivot. And obviously, a pandemic was a major thing to that. But overall, you can't do everything on your own. At the beginning, you're going to have to do a lot of that on your own. I don't know where everyone is at in their stage, and congratulations, first of all, for being here and trying to learn more and be around like-minded people, because I think, for me, that's the most important thing, is surrounding yourself with like-minded people that motivate you, that you want to be better. Oh, Scott, you just did this. Oh, hell yeah, I want to up that, right? So that's what gets me going. Everyone's different, but I think that's super important to surround yourself with those like-minded people to bring on the team that challenges you. I'm wrong a lot of times. I'm definitely not the smartest dude in the room. And that's evident. And even in our creative meeting today, I came up with this great idea, and everyone shot it down. Dre was like, "No, you're dumb. Don't do that." She didn't say that, but it was cool. Cool. I believe in what everyone says, and I think you have to surround yourself with people that don't all think the same. Nick and I have had our major challenges over the years. Steph and I had our major challenges over the year, and you grow up, you learn how to adapt, and I think that was a big challenge for us at the beginning. It's just the immaturity part of things and being stubborn. It's not about us. It's about what our customers are telling us. And, I know creative has that challenge too of we want to put designs out there sometimes that we like and we know that's trendy. But who's buying it? If the community is buying it, you listen to your community. You adapt to that. So facts don't lie, numbers don't lie. That's super important. But again, the vision is always the same, right? How do we just represent our hometown? How do we spread love? And that wasn't just a trendy thing to say, back now in 2022. 2013, our brand message since day one is clothing for all, inspired by Arizona. There's no BS behind that. Blue, orange, purple, whatever. We love everyone. We just want to represent our hometown. So that is genuine and real. And I think it's very important. People now more than ever are going to tell if you're authentic or not. So that's important for us. And I think that's important for any business you're doing, is to be authentic to what you want to do. What's your ultimate goal? I think people are going to see through it if it's just about the money. And if for us, course, that helps create jobs and give to the people that deserve our team. We want them to be flourishing. We want them to have the jobs they want. So all that helps. But in order to get there, you have to be real and you have to have a cause behind it, in my opinion. But yeah, so we started with $1,500, like I mentioned. Started out of a spare bedroom. Worked full-time jobs the first couple of years. I think that's a thing that nowadays people think is just you got to go all in. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, but he'll just be telling you to go all in tomorrow. That's not always the reality for everyone. Unless you all have unlimited funds and stuff, that's cool. But I think I would never change the journey for us, because I think we realize how every dollar counts, and that journey was really important to us. But again, the first full 3 years, I think, we staggered it. Stefan went full-time first. Nick went full-time second. I went full-time last. And what we realized throughout that journey is the more we put into ourselves, the more we put in our business, the more our business grew. So I think it's important to be smart about it, whatever stage in the business you are. Again, if you have unlimited funds, kudos to you, and bring on the right team, but that just wasn't what our story was. I'm proud to say now we have 16 incredible team members, soon to be 3 retail locations, a foundation, which all you incredible people are here today. We have screen printing and embroidery services, art and branding services, video services coming soon, shout out EIC. A license plate coming soon. I mean, that was like a vision of mine for 5-6+ years, and the fact that it became a reality this year is like super impressive, and I just can't wait to launch this in November, December, so hopefully you all have a State 48 license plate soon in the Valley. But and that's going to allow our foundation to do major things. We're going to be able to give that much more back to the community, and we don't have to we could focus more on the programming side of things and these kind of things where we can give out much more money. So that's what the license plate is all about, because it's going to benefit 17 out of 25 bucks is going to benefit our foundation. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, just the ultimate vision of being that one-stop shop for apparel design in Arizona. Again, I mentioned we offer design services. Not to bore you with all the details, but like if you need a design for your company, we could help you. If you need screen printing, we can help you. Embroidery, we can help you. We ultimately want to help add value, and that's ultimately helps us become more sustainable. You know, there's a lot of great t-shirt companies. There's a lot of great emerging designers, and there's probably a lot more talented people in Arizona than us. I see Iconic in here. He's killing it. He went full-time recently. So for us, though, it's like what separates us is how do we create a legitimate organization that's sustainable, gives back. We have the foundation arm. And how do we offer other services? So as a pandemic, we all experienced, unfortunately, if we had all our eggs in one basket, we probably wouldn't be on the stage today giving out $25,000. We definitely wouldn't be on the stage giving out $25,000 in grants. So proud that we were able to pivot right away, make the best out of the situation. But again, we had other revenue streams where we didn't have to just rely on in-store sales. We didn't just have to rely on online sales. Thankfully, that went up. But and thankfully, we built a loyal community over, at that time, 7-8 years, where everyone stepped up and supported us. So I'm sure a lot of you in this room did that. So thank you so much for that. But that's, again, where you see the community step up. I always get frustrated sometimes and joke that it's like social media is so much harder now to reach your audience, or you've worked so hard to build up. But then you post something that's like, a Taco Bell collaboration. Everyone comes out of the woods to come say what's up, but when we need it, everyone shows up. So super grateful for all of you for being in this room, whether you've followed us for a day or 9 years. Very, very thankful for all of you, and that's real. So I kind of talked about how we did that. I think what's important too for us is at the beginning saying yes to every single opportunity. That's what we don't want to do nowadays, because time and money and everything's very important. But you never know who you're gonna meet. Quick story. We had a shipping container that's now at the Churchill in downtown Phoenix down the street. We freaking got persuaded to be in downtown Phoenix in 130-degree weather, because that was before it was at the Churchill. So we'd bring it around to the Valley to different events. And what event was that, Nick? It was like Comic-Con. Oh, yeah, that's when I met you. So James, shout out to James, City of Phoenix. Literally, that's where I was getting at. He's become an incredible partner of ours, and that's been giving us a lot of business, but also become a great friend. And there's stories like that all the time where, if you're not out there, you never know who you're going to meet. At the Junk in the Trunk, when we used to do that, we met our first airport retailer. There's, a million different stories like that. So a lot of it's, people don't, feel like they need to perfect everything and wait for the perfect opportunity to push. We put so much bad stuff out there, in my opinion, of even it is on me, of we put every single different color combination in the world on t-shirts, and I look back and I cringe on seeing a freaking a neon green shirt with a purple logo on it. But we put things out there, and we listened to our customers, and we figured it out, and we gained sales, and I think that was super important for any business. But I think that's, again, very, very important, is listening to your customers, investing in the right people in organizations, collaborations. As you all know, if you're not, this year to date, we've already worked with 280 organizations on a custom co-branded design. They're helping us reach different demographics. We genuinely want to add value, and they see the value. They can then generate funding off it. They can give it to client gifts. They can help share a story, all these different things. And super grateful for collaborations. It's a big part of our business. And speaking of vision, I always had a big vision of collaborations. Nick will be honest and say he didn't believe in that. There's other people that didn't believe in it. and it worked out. But like we stayed consistent and we figured things out, and there's plenty of things that, you know, I thought was right and it was wrong. So I think you just have to make sure we're always listening to our customers, talking, having honest conversations within the team, and just figuring out. But so collaborations have been a major key to our success. Some challenges, which is always the fun part, as you all are probably experiencing. There's very limited time, especially if it's a side hustle. You know, I read recently that I think there was like 65% of people are now starting a side hustle since the pandemic. I think that's incredible. Like, all you in the room, like, congrats to you for trying something. I think the pandemic, the positive out of all of it was realizing, like, life is way too short. We need to figure out something we love, and we need to do it. Whether that's solving a problem or just earn some extra income, like, tomorrow's not promised, and that's not to be corny or anything, but like, we really do need to figure out like what we love to do, and I'm grateful to be doing that every single day. So, and you know, have the team to be able to help us do that. So I think that's super important. But challenges, you know, limited funding. Again, we started with $1,500. We didn't take $1 the first 3 years in business. You know, we were ordering from McCurry's, our local distributor, and like we were like getting $25 orders, and like, you know, orders would come in, and we thought it was like the biggest thing ever. And it's just cool to see now, like, where you're at. Now we're stressing every day if we don't, you know, get this big deal or whatever. So it's a lot of fun to just kind of reflect on it. But the more challenges is putting our prides aside. I know between Nick, Stefan, and I, you know, we had our battles and disagreements, and now we're so much more mature where we can, you know, put differences aside and just stick with facts. Social media, you know, that we all know how challenging that could be, but I also look at it as the positive side. As State 48 wouldn't be here today without social media. It is still free. You know, there's a lot of good. I wish the world would show more good on social media, but that's where we try to just play a hand and just showing AZ that we love everyone. But anyway, I can go on for days of challenges, some solutions. My personal biggest pet peeve is laziness. I think if any of you are wanting to start something your own, you better understand that it's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. Again, I think the world paints this picture of entrepreneurship as the sexy thing to do. You're going to make billions of dollars. Like, kudos to you if you can do that, but that's probably not the reality. So I really is just like making the best out of it. Blessed to have the world at our fingertips. We all can figure things out, whether it's YouTube, and I'm not one to say that I always utilize all that, but I know Nick's a big component of we don't know how to do it. We'll figure it out, but we have all this education at our fingertips, and more than ever. And I think, again, just surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you and inspire you, I think that goes a long way. So I'll just kind of close before I let Nick share whatever he wants to share. Is some tips. Not only do I hope you're motivated and excited to pursue your passion, and again, not everyone in this room is probably an entrepreneur, but just know that like this is like just the beginning. Like, the sacrifice and the hard work and the consistency like has to happen in order to be successful. And again, we're in no way experts, but we just like to share our story and what works. And I think the common trend you hear from all entrepreneurs, whether, you know, David from Freestars spoke at our last speaker series last year, and the guy is they're a billion-dollar company now, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, it's all the same stuff. He started selling magazines in Tempe, right? So like, you just kind of have to like figure things out, surround yourself with people that are like-minded and motivated, and I think that goes a lot, is just making sure you know it's going to take a lot of work. But again, our time is limited on this world, so I encourage you all to pursue something. Don't wait too long to perfect it, because I think otherwise way too much time goes by. Put it out there and see how it works, and if you never know, you could be the next, hopefully, State 48. So thank you guys, and I'll pass it on to Nick.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Kurt, as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am Nicholas Polando. I am co-founder, creative director here at State 48. I'm also on the board for the foundation as well. I'm going to keep it pretty brief. I'm sure you guys have all, y'all been sitting for a while and whatnot. But I do think that next year we're going to retitle this session to being, you have a vision, that's cool. How are you going to now pivot and actually make it happen? Because we've all talked already, and I'm going to talk about the same thing as just far as like adapting. you have to be able to adapt. It's not going to go how you plan, and that's awesome. I wasn't going to be on stage this evening. Here I am. So you just kind of have to go with it, go with the flow. A short story for that, for me at least, is like when we started this company, my older brother is the other partner. His name is Stefan, but he told me that him and Mike were working on this idea. It's called State 48. They're going to sell clothes and do all the things that Mike said that we were going to do. I said, that's cool. Yeah, I'll help out. I don't know how to use most graphic design programs, but I'll figure something out to help you out with the logo, because that's what he had asked me for. Created that logo. I sent them both 5 options for garbage. The 5th one ended up being what is our main logo today. Like Mike said, self-taught, didn't really know what I was doing then. I look at it now as like, it's crazy that like I may never do anything that is as impactful as that logo again in my life, but at the same time, the beauty of not knowing what I was doing necessarily to like, that's gotten all of you here. Like, that's crazy to me, at least. But anyway, I had told like 10 people that we were going to create this thing. I didn't know Mike that well then. Stefan and Mike grew up together since like 1st grade or whatever. And I knew who Mike was, and I knew him, but I didn't like know him. I would say now I know Mike really well, maybe more than I want to. But at the same time, he had told every single person that he had talked to for like the last year and a half, essentially. I was like, yeah, we're going to get these shirts in. We're going to be like, cool, now let's start a plan. Mike was way down the line on the plan, and I had to be like very frustrated or whatever it was. But again, that was like initial pivot, was just like, cool, we're going to go with it, and I had to. I didn't have any other option because I wanted to be a part of this. I did see where it was going to go. I did realize that once I saw people stopping by the house or names that we didn't know that were starting to order online, that like, oh shit, like there's something here, and I definitely want to be a part of this. And thankfully I was able to buy in like 2 weeks down the line for $400. Best investment I ever made, no question. But yeah, like I didn't have any idea where it was going to go at that point in time. And thankfully, like I'll openly admit that like Mike did have that vision. We have had our struggles and all those types of things, but as we've grown and as Stefan's left the company and things like that, like me and Mike actually work really, really good together now. We both keep each other in check on a regular basis. It's a very interesting dynamic, that's for sure. Like I said, I'm gonna keep it short. One thing I did want to mention too is that not only did we meet James that day out at Comic-Con, but we also met Sarah Anderson, who actually has helped this whole thing happen in this space as well too. So, and she does help out with on the committee side for the foundation too. So that's super awesome. So thank you, Sarah. But yeah, I'm gonna keep looking at my phone because like I said, wasn't fully prepared this evening. But yeah, so like I said, when it comes to the design side of things and understanding, for me at least, that I didn't know what I was doing with that logo, and now, like Kurt said and like Mike said, that like collaboration is everything, that like it's really cool to be able to, make those decisions for your own company, right? Like Mike's never challenged me of like, hey, do you think that we should be covering that much of our logo with this other brand? It's like, no, we're giving them just as much respect as they are for us for, buying our product and, wanting to create these collaborations, and as we've grown as a company, I don't do as much design these days. I have 2 amazing designers in Zach and Drea who help out with a lot of it now. And, again, like Mike said, putting the right people around us to build something that is something, what I mean, is just, it's super cool. I love what Kurt said about being here and now. It's like the best way to deal with everything, because you can build everything up in your head and you can get all anxious about about anything, but you always need to be able to center yourself and being here right now. How am I actually going to deal with this situation? You're going to come, that's going to happen again and again and again in entrepreneurship. And I just think that you just have to remember that, like, cool, you have that vision, you are doing that thing. It is going to pay off in the end if you fully believe in it, and no one does anything alone. Like I said, it doesn't really matter that I'm up here. These 2 guys covered most of what it is with a vision. But yeah, I think that, like I said, sorry, one second. I'm gonna check notes real quick. Cool. Yeah. So, the fact that one simple thing, an idea, that let's represent Arizona in a different, more fashionable, fun way, has created something that all of you are here. We're able to give back to you. We're able to teach you our lessons that we learned along the way. I'm just super grateful for that. So, thank you, Kurt, for allowing us to use your space. Thank you, Mike, for everything that you do for me day in, day out. And again, thank you all for supporting us, whether it's through the foundation, buying a t-shirt, telling someone about it, whatever it is. We just thank you so much.
All right, Mike and Nick, I truly believe that it was meant to be that you guys could share your story here tonight, because I'm born and raised here in the Valley. I just bleed everything Arizona. So I instantly became obsessed with all things State 48. I slid in those DMs real quick, and I was like, what's coming out next? I need that shirt. I love everything you're doing. So it's truly amazing just to see their journey. I think that was like 2014 that we linked up, and just to see where you guys are now. So truly, truly amazing. But we're going to pivot. That's the word of the night tonight, and move into our Q&A section of tonight's program. So I hope that you guys have your questions ready. We're going to bring the guys back up, bring Kirk back up for a quick Q&A. So make sure that you're not shy. Raise your hand. We're going to have a couple of people here in the audience to help moderate that. Just put your hand up, and they'll come to you with a mic, and get ready to go. All right, come up, guys.
Check, 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 check. I just shouldn't have left the stage. That's what I just learned.
My name is Michael, and this is a fabulous facility. I've been here twice over the last. Back in 2012, I did an entrepreneurial accelerator with ASU and U of A, and I got all the way to the very end, down to, I think there's like top 12, and then they're going to take the top 6 and go to the next round. Failed on the elevator pitch. And also with the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, they said, with your vision, we don't see us getting our monies back. And so I've been in this conundrum for the last 10 years, essentially, with this great idea, and not making giant buses like yours, making little with purpose, with great purpose. So I don't know if there's necessarily a question, but I am looking for the community to build this idea and branch it further, because it's always nagging at me. I've got the graphic designs. I've got the logo. I got an incredible logo. So, between, like, you guys do logos and
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have an idea that is one of those that takes a little while to happen, if it's going to happen. Ideas, like, sometimes don't happen. Other times, it's like a path to the next idea. They transmute into something else. That I'm always surprised how sometimes these things that I try to envision that happen, all of a sudden, like, take this weird turn and turn into something really cool. My suggestion would be talk with other people. Get more ideas in there. Start to be open to, okay, I love this idea so much, but it might change. That said, who knows? Maybe it's just time was not right. And I've certainly had ideas that I've seen, and I explained a few of those. So it could be one of those as well. I do think that sometimes you just know it, and you just got to keep pushing. And hell or high water, you just keep moving forward. Giving up is so easy. It's just so easy. So I don't know, but I would just open that thing up and just start talking to lots more people about it. You got some feedback, 10 years ago? Yeah, so, sure. Yeah. Yep. Tech's funny that way too. Yeah, there's the other thing I think in terms of the elevator speech is super important. Like, you have to be able to communicate that vision. Otherwise, nobody's gonna share it with you. So there's probably an entire workshop on how to come up with a concise explanation of what your vision is, and then how to really connect with your audience to, whoever that might be. But you got to be able to do it in a short period of time, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, we again started with $1,500. We never had to raise funds, but I mean, even listened to Mr. Amazon speak yesterday of he had to find 60 people raise $1 million that now have 20% of the company. Like the fact that Amazon had to find 20 people to say yes, or 60 people to say yes. Like you hear these stories all the time, so it's just like keep going. If you're hearing great feedback, it's just a lot of times if you're innovator or whatever, like you're gonna have to just find the right person that believes in you. So it just takes that, constant, effort to find help. But I can't really lend much more knowledge.
I think to what was mentioned earlier as well is that if, for whatever reason, if that is where you failed, and it may not be because you failed at doing it, but if for whatever reason that were the case, then, like Mike mentioned earlier too, is that it's just finding the people around you, right? So there might be someone that you can find that will not help you do it, but maybe do it for you, right? Because you don't need to necessarily do all of that because you're focused on everything else, right? So find that person that is able to do that elevator pitch for you, right? To speak on your behalf if that's part of the reason as to why maybe,
Is it on? Okay, there we go.
Okay, I don't think I have a question, but I just want to say that one thing that really stood out for me from what you guys have said is kind of two things. One is just that the idea can also lead to another idea. I have a vision for something I'm working on now that I had starting back in probably 2013, to be honest, but then it didn't really start to become ideas on paper until 2018, and then I kind of was all right, this is never going to happen, threw that piece of paper away. And then that idea is something I still is in my heart, but it has transitioned into another idea. And originally it was just going to be self-love coaching, and then I ended up becoming a photographer to be also something I do, which is teach people to be self-love in front of the camera. And so then it's going to transition again. And so I think that one is super powerful. And then there was something else that you said. It's going to have to come back to me.
Let them respond. Yeah.
Can I just say, putting it out there, obviously you realize, you have to pivot sometimes. And again, our initial plan was hey, let's just make fun designs that represent Arizona. And when we've got connected with Bruce Arians, that really started our collaboration, structure. And we still had to figure things out after that. But if it wasn't for collaborations, we would not be here today, probably. So I think, but if we weren't putting stuff out there and connecting with people and caring about customer service and quality and all that kind of stuff, who knows if we would have met BA and their family, which was raising money to help, neglected children with a bad upbringing, right? So I think that's why it's so important just to put stuff out there and then figure it out as you go, in my opinion. Oh, DJ.
How's it going, guys?
Hey,
Jeff Thurston.
DJ T3 in the house.
Oh, thanks for the shout out, man. Appreciate it. I know enough about you guys. Might have a question later, but specifically to Kirk, I really appreciated the whole journey of the experience of this car, 12 others. I didn't know Walter was actually the original design, which is great. My question is kind of related to that, how originally you said starts with art, apply current technology, and off it goes, right? And then you adapt, adjust. Sorry. Where does that idea and concept, after all this has already been done with the carts and everything, where does that apply, or have you thought about what that may mean on a Web3, NFT, all that future that future 5-year design, and what that might mean for the future with you and your 100-year plan? Just that's kind of the question. Just what you may have in that.
Yeah, it's so the cool thing about old things that have a really cool history is they're being created as we speak. Everything's getting old. From right here, right now, everything ages, everything gets old. Things fall away. And I think that there is an unending source of things that can be reinvigorated. And I don't know that I'm not sure why that would be our model of how we work on things, but I think it's an unending supply of things that we could focus towards. They talk about like what's sort of new and what's an invention. The definition of an invention are two things that already exist, that when you put them together, it creates some surprising result. So every invention and through a patent is old things that are applied together. So I think it's how creation, I don't know if it's math or it's the universe or whatever it happens to be. We have a certain slant on it that adds art, which I don't know that nature is really sort of focused on that idea. It's a human creation that we get to add sort of to it. Tech is certainly something that's really of human kind of creation. And I think the potential to solve really big problems using technology and using kind of humans as, the way to come up with those ideas, we have so much potential. We barely started to touch it. When you mention things like these sort of current technologies, just like ideas, back to your point about like I had this idea and then it went away. Ideas are like kind of like clouds, and they like build and then they sort of dissipate, and now they're gone. I didn't even see it anymore, sort of where it was. So do technologies, and so do trends, and so do all the things that are around us. So T-shirts are not going anywhere. Smart, super smart. Yeah, great. Like, absolutely. Right. That doesn't mean everything's going to be like that. I had the coolest 8-track player in the frickin' world, and it's gone for good. So I'm not too tied when it comes to technology to understanding technologies have lifespans, and then off they go, and now there's something new.
Thank you. Well, I want to start off by saying thank you so much for being so inspiring and genuine. You can feel it. I want to ask, what would you say or advise to those moments when you're dealing with doubt and fear?
Yep. So we have this art car called Mona Lisa, and you'll see her out there. She looks like looks like a spaceship, and she was built to inspire fear. She has these like pulse jet rockets that were on her, and she shoots fire, and she's all covered with spikes and all that. And then we'd open her up, and we'd let people come in, and we'd play silly games with them, like you can get in, but you can't get out with an ID, sort of really funny sort of little things. Because her message is to transcend your fear. And you can't get anywhere if fear is consuming you. You just can't. And so that's not the easiest thing to say, because it's a very human emotion to be fearful. Like, there's things that are dangerous, and no question. But in this world that we live in, a lot of the fears are not associated with something that's really likely to harm you. It's worries, anxieties, all of that. I'm not good enough. All of those sorts of things. And again, that could be an entire sort of discussion of how do you do that. I will tell you that fear is often not about the here and now. Fear is often about something I did in the past means I'm not actually really good enough, or I'm so worried about the future and something might happen or something might not happen. That's really where a lot of the fear comes from. So I do believe that focusing, and there are lots of practices and lots of work done around present moment awareness that is very helpful in transcending fear. Or you can just say, screw it, and just like go for it, which is also just about as powerful. So.
Yeah, anyone knows me knows I'm a super positive dude, and sometimes probably annoying, but shout out to First Drea. I'd say Mindset Mentor podcast is incredible. I think even I'll probably lose my man card a little bit, but even like a week and a half ago, I started journaling and just like putting things that like I'm grateful for. And there you go. And I'm like, again, like I have more fear and stress than ever in my life. Probably the more the business grows, the reality is like it's on your shoulders, and I want that more than anything. But like ultimately, like if you're any type of leadership role, you know, ultimately that falls on you, right? So like I think just being grateful for every single day, one day at a time. If you start to get way too ahead of yourself, of like, damn, these are the next 10 things going on, or all these expenses are coming up, like one day at a time, really. I know it's easier said than done, but like, I don't know, like actually the journaling's really helped me of just putting like, again, every day what I'm grateful for, but also like venting of like, oh, I'm super stressed about this, or I'm pissed off at this, or whatever. And I think that's been helpful for me, but we're all dealing with stuff. And I think it's just like, again, surrounding yourself with the right people. That you don't want to surround yourself with people that are always negative and talking crap about anything. Like, and that Mindset Mentor podcast, yeah, I love that thing. So it just puts things in perspective of like, hey, every day we have, you know, your family, you're healthy, you're alive. Like you could be gone tomorrow. I think just trying to dumb it down a little bit and put it in perspective, I think helps out a lot.
Journaling is not gender specific, but but either way, it doesn't matter. But that is great that you are journaling. I like to hear that. You know, I think being, again, like everyone said, being fearful, it's a part of it, right? You just kind of have to push through. I mean, you know, especially like even, you know, doing artistic things, like you're probably going to be pretty bad at it at first. You know what I mean? You just kind of have to keep working at it. And if you have that drive to keep doing it, you'll find a way. If you have people around you that support you, you know what I mean? They're going to lift you up. They're going to tell you, you know, find the truthful people, honestly. That'll help with the fear because they're going to tell you the truth, you know? So how to get past it, how to do it, you know, and hopefully to overcome those types of things. You know what I mean? I have a fear of all sorts of things, like Photoshop. I love Illustrator, Photoshop. I have Zach and Drea, and they're really good at it. So thank you again. Drea's evolved our company. Actually, the 3 females that are back there, and with everybody else, super involved. Yeah.
One last question here, and it comes from our virtual audience, Katie Rowe. This one's specific for Kirk, and she wants to know, how do you turn ideas into implementation?
Yeah, well, and that's what I heard is like, how do you take that vision and how do you actually make it happen? So I would say that there's a recipe, and it's a really complex recipe that's dependent upon how big the thing that you're trying to accomplish is. But one of the very first things is know that almost everything big can't be done by you alone. So it's by definition a joint project. And somebody's got to be able to help create the shared vision of where you're trying to go. And so to me, that's like the very, very first step. I believe that the series, this series, is going to continue to dive deeper into the process required to actually accomplish what is in that vision. And, you know, I mean, if you go to an incubator, they're going to give you their version of that recipe. It's just one recipe in how to be successful. And you can certainly, you know, play with it and make it up, you know, in your own way, which is kind of ours. And it sounds like it's yours as well. But you can also learn a ton about how others have gone through this process. There are things like, do you have to prototype? Do you have to go through, you know, stages of development? You know, if you're in the medical realm, you know, there's very prescribed processes of how you do that. But really, I think when it comes down to it, if you have this amazing idea, I would just say the very first thing is you have to first figure out how to share that with other people, and you're going to have to collaborate in some way. There may be, depending upon what you're trying to do, maybe there's just a one-person show that you can do, and you could probably learn from people here who have done that as well. But I think gatherings like this are an incredible opportunity for people to learn from one another and people that have gone through this before. So I'd say just keep coming back here, keep asking that same question of everybody that you can interact with. If this was an online one, it'd be great if there was ways that you could interact with people that are here, people that are part of the State 48 Foundation, because it's really about connecting.
All right, guys, thank you so much for answering our questions, both in the audience and virtually. Kirk, we're going to have you stick around because you have a little exercise for us.
Yeah, and
lead
could
us
we
through
go
it.
ahead and get those pieces of paper out to everyone?
They
Oh,
have.
everybody has it already? Oh my gosh. All right. So we're going to play that game that my daughter and I play. It doesn't really have a name, but it's kind of a doodle thing. So if there's some symbol that means something to you already, or if there's just some symbol that just like popped into your head, just draw it in kind of the middle of the page. And keep it kind of small, but just draw a little doodle of something. Doesn't really matter what it is. You can certainly use the symbol that I put up there, but just draw something. This one is a timed game. So I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds in order to do that. All right. Some of you I can see are done. There's a few people still sketching. You got about 5 seconds left. And then hand it to somebody that's around you. Right? So you're gonna exchange with somebody. If you happen to be in the weird position where there's 3 of you, it's okay. You just don't have as much time, but you're going to all 3 of you write on each other's. All right. Now, in this game, you do not have to keep your pen off of what they drew. You can absolutely connect your doodle. Just look at what they did and use that as an inspiration for drawing something else. Could be a symbol, could be lines, could be a word, anything you want. Nope, just got to be on the page. All right. Exchange it back with that person as soon as you're done. All right. All right. Now, go ahead and draw on your original one. Take a look at what they did. They messed up your drawing, right? Yeah. But that's okay. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to mess up your drawing. Go ahead. Now you draw something. Draw something. A word, some lines, a symbol, anything you want. Now size is, the limits are off. You can draw as big or as small as you want. Just anything you want. Just express yourself on that piece of paper. All right, find somebody else. Hand it to them. Yeah, if you can find somebody else, throw it on theirs. All right. Now you guys you know how to do this thing now. I'm going to give you a few minutes and just draw fast and start handing it back and forth with one another. You draw whatever is on that page. Now you're inspired to draw something else. You're expressing yourself. Maybe what you draw might have been inspired by something you heard here today, something you saw in Walter Studios, something that happened in your day, something you've been thinking about or worrying about or really want to see happen. All right, you should be switching again. Make sure that you keep this thing going. Now you can switch with anybody you want. And yeah, just start moving them around. In fact, if this goes well, you might have even lost your original drawing. All right, so yours might have actually now be in somebody else's hands. Now you don't even know where your drawing went. Your idea went into the ether, and now it's just gone. But you have new artwork in front of you. If you're really efficient, you can just draw the same thing on everybody's. But you can also look at what's there and, yep, you ought to be switching again here pretty soon. We're coming down to the last 2 minutes of this exercise. Go ahead and keep switching. Keep drawing. Maybe there was something that you had hoped to think about. Something related to your entrepreneurship or your journey that you want to express on that piece of paper. All these minds are like starting to sort of spread onto the paper, and you're just like kind of moving them all around in this room. We're down to the last minute. And then if anybody wants, then we have food and drinks out there. There's bathrooms. I'll bet some people want that at the back of the room. Go ahead. If you can get another switch in before I call time. Let's do one more. And then this is the one that is yours now. And when you're out in the lounge, feel free if you want to share this beautiful piece of art, collaborative art that has been created by you and your friends here. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and stop. Hold up your artwork. Hold up your artwork. Beautiful. I'm sure there's probably a world-changing idea that is in on one of these pieces of paper. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you meet people. Like, if you walk out of Walter Studios and did not meet someone who you didn't know, that's the only failure tonight. So please, please introduce yourself to the other people that are here and have fun, and really glad you're all here.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see everyone's drawings. I'm actually going to call up Mike and Nick. Can you come back up here? Let's give our amazing speakers a round of applause. Kirk, come back up here. All right, just a reminder for everyone here tonight about the grants, because you want to make sure you're doing all the things to get that $25,000 grant. Make sure you fill out that survey. You will receive that in your email after the session. Thank you again to OGs, our sponsors, and make sure that you also fill out that grant application at the end of the survey. So we look forward to next week. We will see you next Wednesday, August 10th at 6 p.m. Thank you.